At one point, China really wanted semiconductors from the United States, and it was very important that China get semiconductors. But there were a lot of aspects of that play that the United States tried that just didn't actually make sense. The really tiny, super fine, most advanced microchips are not particularly useful in 99% of industry. Even on a missile, you want a big semiconductor. You don't want something shaking around in there. Or if you're building a laptop like the one that I'm using to talk to you, you don't need that. That's only really good in the most super powerful computers that are used for AI and that. And China's already replaced those by stacking other kinds of microchips. They have the same output. In fact, some of the fastest supercomputers in the world are still Chinese, despite the semiconductor ban on China.
Yeah.
Plus, the United States spurred domestic growth, and a lot of microprocessors that are made today, some of the best ones are now made in China. Has China fully caught up in semiconductors? No. The West, the United States and its semiconductor allies, if we want to call them that, are still ahead. But China will not be behind for more than a couple of more years. And then China doesn't actually need semiconductors from the United States or its partners. Who consumes the most semiconductors in the world? China. 90% of all semiconductors exported in the world went to China. Go to China. Why? Because China makes gadgets, phones, watches, Huawei phones, Apple phones, even Samsung products are processed in China at some point in the supply chain. So radios, TVs, vacuums. I have a robot mop that mops the house. Everything that you people buy, coffee machines, it's manufactured in China mostly. Of course, there are products coming out of South Korea and ASEAN as well, but a lot of those have at least some part of their supply chain in China. Now, so the United States had a great product, and its semiconductor allies had a product, and now that product is meaningless. The market for those products is gone. So actually, they've destroyed their own industry to some extent. We're going to see that play out over the next few years, where those companies are looking for new markets. But China, rare earth elements, rare earth minerals. Who produces those? China produces the lion's share in the world. Now, it's not about having rare earths. A lot of people misunderstand this, especially people in America. They're like, oh, we have rare earths. We can get rare earths from here and there in Argentina and whatever. Okay, yeah, here's some dirt. Can you put that dirt in your phone? No, it's not about where rare earth minerals come from. It's not about mining them. Of course, you can get them in the United States or Argentina or Ukraine or wherever else. You can. Now, here's a pile of dirt. Good luck. What China has is a 40-year lead on processing those technologies. There's 100 steps sometimes in taking rare earth and then processing it one way through a chemical process, waiting, processing it another, what the output of that through another process, waiting, doing it again, 100 steps to get to the final product where you finally have one of these rare earth elements. So for the United, and also there are 36 different majors and 50 different majors, 36 different majors for rare earth element processing at Chinese universities, and there are 50 different for lithium-ion battery technology in China. So if you want to work in batteries, China has all of the technology, all of the engineers, all of the scientists, all of the infrastructure, all of the logistics hubs that are put next to each other. It has all of the infrastructure. A lot of people in the United States are like, ha, 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 we can rebuild that industry in 5 years. Really? I'm interested to see that play out, because some of the best experts in the United States who actually know what they're talking about, and they're not talking heads, say it will take 30 years for the United States to catch up with China. Guess what they will need next year in the United States when supplies run out? Rare earth elements. We don't have 30 years or even 5 years. You want to make semiconductors in the United States? You're not going to be able to. The United States won't be able to make anything meaningful next year this time. So, respectfully, I think China has some cards the United States does not have. And I'm hoping, in the interests of peace and partnership, that Besant can sit down with partners in China. Xi Jinping and Trump can meet up maybe at APEC or somewhere else, and they can sit down and have a rational discussion of how these two countries can have a meaningful partnership and lower the tension, lower the tariff war, and we can actually work together for the betterment of both our countries and the rest of the world. because it's like you said, it's not in anyone's interest for this China does not need to export to the United States, but China would want to. China wants the U.S. market. Absolutely. It's going to help China's economy grow. Does the United States need China? Actually, I think it does. And that's kind of a problem for the United States right now. And I think that's why we see Besant freaking out with 500% tariffs. The reason he's raising from 130% to 500 is they don't have any cards left to play. The United States is like, well, what do you do? No idea. Let's just raise it to a billion percent tariff, because 500% is just as meaningless. As an American citizen, I'm really worried about what's going to happen to our people when our government screws this up. What we need are more competent leaders, or the leaders that are in power in Washington, D.C., need to realize, for the love of our own people, that we need to get to the table with China and make a deal.